Welcome to the truth about beer.
All the crap that
we're interested in. I'm Keith Davidson.
I'm Papa Joey Stay.
I'm Tim Rice.
Searching for the truth.
Exploring the
unexplained.
Investigating the paranormal. Subscribe now.
Hit the alert button.
Hit the alert button so you don't miss an episode. Welcome to the truth
about beer.
And
remember?
Oh, there we go. We're here now.
All right, everybody's coming back on. Welcome everybody to Paranormal Talk.
March 2nd.
Yes, it is March
2021. We quit numbering them, decided we'd go with the date.
Ooh, right?
I know. It takes a lot more, doesn't it?
Hey, Michelle. Thanks for jumping on. We got Wanda back on, Mike's on, Wendy's on.
What's with a boo?
What?
Are they booing you?
No.
No, that's a scary sound.
Oh, it's a boo.
It's a boo.
You got a boo.
Right? Yeah. That's not weird.
It's not weird at all.
All right. Without further ado, let's get this show started, shall we?
Yeah, we got to make sure Jay and Marie's sick, or their mics are working with us and stuff.
Yeah,
we didn't get a chance to do a test. So let's bring them on.
Bring 'em in, see what happens.
Let's do it. Howdy.
Hey, Jay.
Hello, guys.
How's it going?
Are you flying solo?
Flying solo today. Yeah, I sent you over a message a little bit earlier.
I guess we
have to put our stuff on airplane mode, unfortunately, when we start the show. So
yeah, we do this alcohol little session a half hour before, and then
you make it sound like a therapy session.
It is. It's a therapy session. So
it's a segment. That's what I like to call it.
Yeah. Well, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
No, it's our pleasure. Absolutely.
We're stoked to have you.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
how you guys been?
Been good. Been busy. You know.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. These days, right, with everything going on, all the man.
Yeah, exactly.
Context for the layman's.
What's that?
I don't know who Jay and Marie are. I would love to know who you guys are. So could I have some info?
Well, we'll get to that there, Jack. Jack's our producer in there. He kind of comes in and learns things late.
Yeah.
We know who you are because we've been
that's true.
Digging the paranormal stuff for quite a while, and yeah, big fans of good old Vulture City.
Yeah, definitely.
Which he's got on the hat. That's awesome.
So I understand that Paracon and Go this year?
Paracon is a go this year, yes.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Finally.
Yeah, no kidding. Jeez.
Yeah, so what are the...
Knock on wood, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. You never know.
What are the dates on Paracon?
Paracon's the October 8th through the 10th. So it runs Friday all the way through Sunday. We start Friday with a meet and greet with all our guests that are coming out. Have the town open for everyone to kind of walk around, get acquainted with the town. And then on Saturday, we have vending, lectures, workshops, gallery readings, you name it, we got it. And that Saturday night, we have a public ghost hunt. On Sunday, back-to-back workshops, panels. So it's a full weekend of everything paranormal, pretty much.
We love it.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Neat.
Yeah, so we'll give Jack a little background here so he knows what's going on here.
Thank you.
But so Jay and Maria's wife, they're more commonly known for their frequent appearances on popular paranormal reality television shows, such as, but not limited to, Ghost Adventures, Haunted Case Files, seasons 1 and 2, Paranormal Witness, Ghost Adventures, Aftershocks, and Scariest Night of My Life. And then I also saw on your Facebook that you've done some Paranormal 911.
Yeah, I mean, I can't list everything on there.
My ghost story caught on camera.
Oh yeah, that was the first one back in the day, man. I swore I would never do television after that, but I did.
It went that good, huh?
Wasn't the best experience, let's just say that.
Well, I love Haunted Case Files. I mean, that's
it's a great show. Really happy, good cast, great directors, amazing production company. They've been nothing but excellent for all the years that we've worked with them. Hopefully, we're going to get a green light for a season 3, COVID willing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
that'd be awesome. And one of the best voiceover dudes.
Oh yeah,
should. I wish I could talk like him. Just when you thought it was over.
That's so true. Yeah.
You know, Jay, what I find very interesting is, you know, we've met a lot of people over the last couple of years that we've been doing this, you know, and we always ask people, you know, what got you started? What got you involved in the paranormal? And I think your story really hits home because it was something extremely personal to you, you know, and I think we started meeting more and more people with that. So I don't know if you are comfortable talking about it, you know, for the audience or not, but I'd like you to share a little bit of it if you could.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up haunted and experiencing things I really couldn't explain. So what that meant for me specifically was that I would see spirits of children the way that they looked at the moments of death. And that would be accompanied by a very dark, ominous shadow person that would kind of be the puppet master to these spirits. So as a child, I didn't have like all these cool ghost hunting shows to really, you know, look up to and to understand. I was kind of alone. You know, this is, you know, newer that this past decade specifically that we're able to like really talk about this out in the open, not have to worry about it. But I looked at people like Ed and Lorraine Warren specifically that were like, you know, the only ones that I knew that were really doing anything. And I'm like, what is this ghost hunting stuff? But they'd have those 2020 specials, Dateline specials, special reports with the news, and there'd be little articles and clippings in magazines that I would cut, you know, out and kind of just like hold on to that, because that for me was like validation that I wasn't going crazy, you know. So literally I was psychologically evaluated from the ages of 5 all the way up until about my 8th grade year in school. And every time I had one of these evaluations, they would be like, well, he either has a really good imagination or these things are really happening to him. So I had a pretty supportive family that, you know, didn't like run, you know, for the hills like I was crazy or something was wrong with me. So that definitely did help out. They definitely didn't quite understand, you know, what it was that I was really going through.
Right.
Of course, nor did I, you know. So they kind of intensified as I got older rather than just kind of going away. In about August 13th of 99, I had a near-death experience that kind of forever changed my life and my direction, if you will. Got into ministry for a little bit, pretty much excommunicated because I believed in angels, demons, and the dead. So with that being said, I was kind of lost for a while until I found my wife, Marie. And as she would say if she was on here with me, and then I turned her to the dark side, right? So, I mean, literally, you know, my life, it was kind of lost, you know, without, you know, I felt purpose, you know, when I was ordained and out there doing what I was doing. And, you know, to get kind of kicked out of that, it definitely hurt, you know. And before Marie and I got married, we kind of sat down, had a little conversation, and I was like, you know, this is my story and this is what I've been through. And she kind of already knew a little bit of it, but she didn't know the full picture. But I wanted to let her full disclosure to let her know what was going to happen probably if we got married. And shortly thereafter, she then began having her own paranormal experiences. You know, I always say that I used to think my houses were haunted that I lived in growing up, and it was always me, because everywhere I've gone, I've always had these attachments and whatnot. And you learn more as you continue moving forward in this field, you know, and, you know, educating yourself and whatnot. We experienced a very dark haunting together. We reached out to the paranormal community. We reached out to clergy. We were rejected by everybody. I was super pissed off. I was super bummed out about it. But you know, looking back at it in retrospect, if these teams weren't prepared to be able to handle what I was going through, it was probably better that they didn't do that. So I'm grateful that no one really did show up. I'm also grateful that clergy, declined to help me as well. We kind of leaned towards our faith. We didn't eliminate it. I mean, we've been dubbed haunted survivors now for years. It's not that we were haunted always. I've been haunted my entire life personally. I'm still haunted today. It doesn't really change. Most people, when they hear that, they say, "Oh no, you're just, you're a medium, or you can see the dead, or you're sensitive." I don't like using that terminology necessarily, so we'll just leave it at haunted survivor. I think that I think everyone's gifted. From the moment of birth, we just kind of lose that because life's general disappointments and whatnot. We kind of just lose that childlike faith in life in general. So, but I believe that we could all, we're all born in this world to be able to see things, and the veil's a little bit thinner as we're younger. We just kind of lose that because life kind of sucks sometimes.
Right. Was
But the paraphrase though, after that, my wife and I pretty much decided that we would, formulate like a team of investigators that were kind of like-minded, and we would be the, we would say yes rather than no, and go in and try to help people. And over the years doing this for God knows, I don't know how long now, but we spend more time counseling. We call it paranormal consultations or counseling, rather than going into people's homes and scaring people even more and causing more and more problems. We spend a lot of our time. We have a large volume of people that reach out to us, mostly probably because a lot of the TV shows and whatnot,
right.
And our face just being out there. But we spend a lot of time doing Skypes and phone calls, and kind of set aside, a portion of our week to do that, and kind of just talk people through it, So being a friend to someone who doesn't really have anyone that really can relate to them, and with that piece generally helps out quite a bit, and we give them pointers and things that they could do. If needed, we outsource the different teams that are in their areas to help them out if it's needed,
Okay.
But like the TV stuff and the lectures and all this stuff, that events, that was never like part of the deal. In fact, the first time we ever got called for like television, I was like, what? Why are you calling me?
Right.
So, and then I swore I would never do it, and I kept saying I'm never going to do it, and then now, geez, 10 years, 11,
You're kind of
12
in
years
it.
later, like we're still doing it. We just wrapped
Right.
some filming recently, so.
Was your wife before you guys met and got married? Did your wife ever have experiences prior to that, or was it after you met?
No, she always says that the only ghost she believed in was Casper, the friendly ghost, like on Saturday mornings. But when I start talking to her, we really start revisiting her childhood. A lot of the places she felt most comfortable are really well known, like paranormal locations.
Huh.
So she would hang out at the bridge where it said that there were suicides, and she would hang out at the railroad tracks that are said to be haunted, and this old, haunted cabin that was said to be haunted, a park that was haunted, a cornfield that was haunted. It's just kind of funny that it all kind of lined up the way it did. But yeah, it's really strange. But no, she wasn't at all involved with that. And what really connected us with that was her son from her previous marriage, Stephen, was experiencing a lot of strange things. But he was also struggling with autism and some other mental illness. But me coming in, I was actually seeing a lot of the things that he was seeing, and we immediately clicked, and we started to form a very tight bond. And I think Marie kind of got a little jealous, and what is this paranormal stuff all about? What's going on? How were you able to reach my son so much?
Right.
And from that, I think she started listening a little bit more. Yeah, we've been through a lot on the paranormal spectrum outside the case.
Right.
Well, Vinny asked a question that I think I don't see anything on your list here of or your what do we call this?
Biography.
Yeah, your biography. There we go. He's asking a question that I don't see on your biography, so he might have an insight.
What was the question?
He says, was your after death experience a positive experience or a negative experience?
Well, when I was actively going through it, I didn't have time for it to be either and or. I mean, it was just definitely something that afterwards, though, it changed me. I mean, it changed my direction. For me, it made me lean more towards my faith. my near-death experience, it wasn't a very pleasant one. So it was very dark. I was shown my funeral, a newspaper article that was written about me and how I had passed. I saw the news headlines. I saw the news stations, just about everything. And I was shown a lot of insight into what was going to happen in my life, up to and including me being, thinking I was going to go one direction with a marriage, and then someone else came along, and later on in life, after that broke apart, and that ended up, being Marie. So it's a little emotional, but it's one of those things that when you've been a ghost yourself, you definitely can relate a little bit differently, I think.
Right.
Wow.
I think it's great that you and your wife had that connection, though. I think that's incredible to be able to get that.
Yeah, in the beginning, it was definitely, and a lot of her trying to understand what was going on. I think we're all constantly learning. We're all constantly growing. I mean, there's things that I thought I knew, even 2 years ago, and then now my opinion has changed. I look at evidence that I was collecting in the early 2000s, and I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? You know what I mean? So, I think we should all remain kind of open-minded and humble. And, my wife always says there's a lot to learn even from people who know nothing about the paranormal at all,
Right.
And if we just sit down and listen and we educate ourselves and expose ourselves to different cultures, different religions, I think it does make you a better investigator. When we first started as a team, we were your basic cookie cutter paranormal team, you know what I mean? With the exception of the fact that all my guys in the beginning were all law enforcement, military, first responders. So that was important as far as integrity was concerned. But when we started getting phone calls from people that were active Satanists and involved in the occult and whatnot, and they were wondering why some of these things were happening, I was confused. After actually researching and understanding and having interviews with individuals with different backgrounds, it definitely helped to enlighten me and help me to understand. And we've never been accustomed, opposed to rather outsourcing and saying, hey, we don't know, but we'll do our best to find that answer for you. And I think that more of us should be doing that, really.
Yeah.
So when he was mentioned is that the one in Mesa, the Sunkist?
I think it was, yeah.
Is that the?
Yeah, we investigate. I think we've been investigating the Sunkist factory in Mesa, Arizona for probably the better part of like 6, maybe even longer years, 7 years maybe. We got a call, or actually I got an email early morning one day. Or early one, it was probably 2 a.m. I got this email and it was like, hey, I'm the owner of this new building. My crew's scared to go into the basement. I can't even keep my laborers there. The plumbers don't want to be there. They're terrified of this basement. They're seeing shadows. And then he sent me over a video of like what the space looked like before all the restoration. And we immediately jumped on it. And we've been he was very particular. He did his homework before he reached out to a paranormal team, and he just really focused on us being the people in there. It's now an active auto parts manufacturing company, so he's really careful about who he lets in for liability reasons and
Right.
like
Interesting. Who are we talking to the other night about that?
Lindsay brought it up about the Sunkist.
Oh, Lindsay did. Okay.
She was talking about it.
Yeah.
It's a cool location, man. As far as like what's going on there, you got a little bit of everything there. And as the years have gone by, it's just the place is almost like a holding place just for like emotions and energy. So there's so many stories associated, lots of murders, lots of deaths that have occurred on the grounds, just outside the grounds, in front of the building. The first one that made the owner concerned was that there was a gal that was homeless who was down on her luck, and she laid her head on the train tracks, and the train had run her over. But she did not die on the scene. I think she died in transport to the hospital.
Oh my God!
And there was reports of screams coming from that area behind the building, which we hear on a regular basis. But there's definitely, I wouldn't say that there's anything demonic there, but there is definitely some very malignant type spirits there. It is a very draining location. If you're not really well grounded going in there, you could definitely walk out of there and have to recover for a couple of days like you had a hangover or something.
Right.
Back in my my previous life, I used to be a copier technician, the copy man, you know. And actually, I used to service the copier at that place.
Oh, no kidding.
Back in the
Oh,
early
wow.
90s. Yeah.
Wow.
How'd I only know? Yeah.
Wow. Small world, right?
Yeah, exactly. Christine had a question. What was Christine's question at? What was the most memorable / scary investigation you've done? Sorry, I was trying to read from a distance.
The most memorable and scariest investigation that we've ever done, I always look back at an investigation we took of my mother-in-law's house. It was featured, I think, on Haunted Case File Season 1. It's the one that we get a lot of feedback from. A lot of people really, shocked at the whole thing.
Mhm.
Not as shocked as I was, I can tell you that. It was one of those locations to where I learned a lot, and I grew a lot as an investigator from it. I really changed my ways a lot kind of after that. It was my mother-in-law's house. So the whole backstory of it is that my wife's grandmother had a fall there and passed away. And after she had passed away, my mother-in-law was experiencing shadow play and noises and a lot of just crazy stuff. And we figured she was going through a lot. She was very close to her mother.
Right.
And they kept wanting us to come out to check it out. And I was really reluctant to do it. I've been in the house thousands of times. There's nothing there. There's nothing going on. Why all of a sudden, And they were really adamant about it. And specifically, my wife was very adamant about it. And with that being said, we finally set up a date to go there. And when I went there, I was kind of just like, let's get this done. Let's get this over with. And just make her happy, to let her know that there's nothing here, that kind of thing. But much to my surprise, immediately, entering in the home, strange things started happening. We started hearing a music box playing. I kind of shrugged it off. And back then, we would do a lot of our own cleansings and blessings of locations. So I, by myself, immediately went into the epicenter of where the paranormal activity was supposed to be, which was in this huge walk-in closet with this sliding door that kind of, those old school ones that would roll into the wall,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yep.
And I was kind of being arrogant and just honestly a dick, really, in a lot of ways. And I walked in, I even shut the door behind me, and I'm like, oh, we're not turning on the lights, and it was just stupid arrogance on my part. And I started this prayer over the location, and almost immediately the clothes that were in the closet started moving. And immediately I'm like, okay, well, I'm probably pushing my back up against them. That's, normal. I take a few steps forward, it happens again. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. And I look over to my right, and there was several hooks on the wall, and there was purses that were hanging from, these little hooks.
Right.
And they levitated straight out.
geez.
I flipped out. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I've seen levitation up to that point probably half a dozen times. And my reaction is always the same, probably yelling like a 12-year-old schoolgirl, what the hell is going on, right? And I tried to get out of the closet. The door wouldn't open. It was like someone was forcefully holding it. And I thought my crew was messing with me. I'm like, this isn't funny, guys. And there's an audio recording that's actually from me on that particular episode. And I'm screaming guys, get me the hell out of here. Get me out. Get me out. It wasn't a joke. That wasn't, I was scared, and they finally get me out, and I throw all of this gear. I just bought all this gear too. It was hundreds and hundreds of dollars with this crap, and I threw it all on a desk. And I'm throwing everything in the bags, we're leaving, I'm not prepared for this. We're coming back.
Right.
And my wife looked at me, and anyone that knows my wife knows that she just doesn't let anything messing with her family specifically. So, and that would include even ghosts, right? So she's like, no, we're going back in. And if you can't do the blessing, I'm doing it myself. And I'm like, okay, but you don't understand, this is a little bit more serious than we thought it was. There's levitation, there's movement of objects. Let's come back, let's do it right. It was my fault. I didn't come here prepared. Long story short, Marie, next thing you know, she's in the closet where all this stuff, the center of all these weird things were happening. And she starts, continuing with this prayer. And all of a sudden, the clothes start moving again. All this stuff's moving around in the closet, poltergeist, crazy.
Right.
And I'm she's not even acknowledging it. She's just so in tune with this prayer, this cleansing prayer. And very long story short, I remember her screaming out, something's in my head.
Oh, wow.
And she dropped to the floor, and in the process of her dropping to the floor, here we are again, locked in this damn closet with my own arrogance, shutting the door again, trying to be a hard ass. and we get her out, and my crew, my camera guy, God bless him, his name is Richard Hoyt, great guy. I love the guy. I used to work with him for the sheriff's office, and I told him, don't ever stop recording no matter what, right? And he's sitting there with the video camera, and I checked my wife, and she's not breathing, and she doesn't have a pulse, and she's completely purple. So with that being said, like, the show showed it like really like romantic and amazing, where I picked her up and I walked her through the threshold of the door out of the house. That did not happen. I ended up freaking out, and actually my camera guy finally set down his camera and picked my wife up for me and walked her out the door. As soon as she passed the threshold of the front door of the home, she took in this huge gasp of air, and we kind of set her down onto like a edge of a windowsill, and she's like, breathing, like, trying to regain her breath, and her color starting to come back to her face a little bit. And then I'm like, okay, so we're going to the hospital, and she's like, no, we're not. We're going back inside.
Oh, God.
I'm like, you're out of your mind. Like, this is crazy. You're not doing this. And she says, you're either going to do it with me or I'm going to do it without you. It doesn't matter. I'm going back in there. This is my family, and this isn't happening in my family's house. And anyone that knows Marie, when it deals with family, kids, her own family or other people's family, she can get very motherly about stuff. And she's definitely a spiritual warrior, is what I always call her. But she when she got up, we were kind of just checking her out and everything, and in the back of her neck, we noticed she had these large scratches across the back of her neck that were just really just deep and nartical. And she goes back in, dude, and she does her thing, and we finished the investigation. And you always watch these shows, and you always hear this stuff where they're like, "Oh, and the house felt so light, and there was so much brightness." And I don't know, I'm one of those guys that watch those shows. I'm like, shut up, you know what I mean? But it was one of those situations where you could definitely feel the difference, and it was almost immediate. And we instructed my mother-in-law to do some very specific things in the home after us leaving, and she did, and she followed through with it. But the one thing that we did before we left is we recorded my two sons telling their great-grandmother who had passed away in there, "We love you, Grandma, we miss you." And we played that recording back inside that room, and we had a recorder rolling at the same time. And when we checked it later after we played that recording, you hear her grandmother's voice saying, "I love you."
Wow.
And it was definitely her voice and everything.
I just got goosebumps.
So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those cases to where I definitely grew from, it's one of those cases that changed my life, my direction, and everything that I'm about. It's something you'll never forget, going through something like that. There's obviously much more moving parts to it than what I discussed, but this is only a short amount of time I have to talk to you. I could probably talk about that all night. But as far as it was concerned, afterwards, literally the activity was completely eliminated inside the home. They restored back what peace they could inside the home, and nothing was going on whatsoever.
Wow.
One of those things that's for me, obviously, with the seriousness of my wife getting injured. But Marie's not like any stranger to being injured or scratched, she's always, man, like I don't even know, like in the beginning, like I said, and that's kind of one of those defining moments where things started to change for us, because back in the day, we were very much so like, if you play with fire, you get burned. Like, why do I need protection? I don't even believe in crystals and all this other stuff. Like, we would just call it hocus pocus. We'd even call holy water magic water, and it was like there was just things that we just didn't put any real faith in it. But one thing we had faith is in our own, like, our own path, like our own God. So that's kind of something we've leaned on later on in life. But subsequently, by living on the edge and being a little crazy with our investigations, I think, is a fault of Marie. Ending up with autoimmune system issues and things like that we're dealing with even today. Which is part of the reason why she's not on the show today. And we talk to a lot of females specifically that are into the same line of work that we're into. And you hear about a lot of these females that end up getting like these autoimmune system disorders that, there's nothing in their, family that no one has it. And this is something that's supposed to be hereditary. So I've always often wondered, like, do we really know the paranormal side effects? Do we know what the side effects are to ghost hunting?
Right.
on a health level. You know, like what does that
Yeah.
mean? Like what is that? You know, so that's kind of where we're at with things. So
That's a oh my goodness, what a powerful thing to share.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's
That
what
was
I like
Jack.
about
You,
it.
That
you
was
should
Jack.
bring yourself on, Jack,
This-
so you
I-
can see that you're actually a person.
where's that voice coming from?
Yeah.
It's the weird looking guy in the back. That was amazing. I don't know what to say about that. Like, it's funny because you mentioned some things that we've discussed with other people, and one of my concerns with all the paranormal stuff is the ability or the possibility to be affected without having belief.
Yes.
And so if I understand what you're
Whether
saying,
you believe or not, they definitely believe. So it doesn't really matter. You definitely have to
Yeah.
be grounded. You definitely, and we would joke. I mean, I'm not even kidding you. People talk to us from like California all the way across, you know, the United States and events that we've been at. Where one of our big lectures that we would talk about is paranormal protection, and the first thing we'd say is we don't use it. And you know, and I'll be the first to admit that was a very stupid move on my part, and I was the leader, and I made a mistake. I think subsequently we're dealing with a lot of that backlash today. So,
Wow.
you know, it's a very serious thing, and I think that people just they watch the TV shows, and you know, I'm part of a lot of those shows, but we don't see the bigger picture. We just see we just see what's entertaining on those shows. We don't see
Right.
what it does to us on a more personal level. And I know many people that go out and investigate, they don't ever have any attacks, they don't ever have any scratches, they don't have any of these serious things happening to them. But then there is those that do, you know, and why those people are chosen out by the spirits to do harm or to cause pain, I'm not really sure.
That's pretty
I know
crazy.
that I've been struggling with it my entire life. I still struggle with it today. Although I lecture and speak about it, it's not uncommon for me to wake up in the middle of the night, you know, having an episode of something, and my wife, you know, having to sit there and watch this with very violent hauntings, and you know, things visit me quite a bit, and it would happen no matter what. Let's just put it that way. But I definitely am more aware of what I do. I don't spend my time a lot going out to residentials for a lot of reasons. One is because everyone, you know, wants their 15 minutes of fame. So then they call Jay and Marie and they say, oh, well, he'll probably put it on a TV show. So, I mean, that's what kind of sucks with the whole TV stuff is that you get a good half that aren't legitimate, you know, reaching out. So it's best for us to screen those and whatnot. We have a huge screening process
Imagine.
before we even show up anywhere. And we recommend mental health. We have resources. We connect people with churches and services. And, you know, like it, we don't take this seriously as ghost hunters going into places. But, I mean, I'll tell you what, if you leave a house and you were the last person to leave a house and you scared the hell out of somebody, the next thing you know, someone gets hurt in the house. Don't think that you won't be getting a phone call from the police. You know what I mean? So you definitely need to take things a little more serious when we're out there to a point. I like to have a lot of fun, but at the same time, you know, when you're dealing specifically with like residential homes and families, those are people's lives, you know, and I've just seen way too much in the time that I've been in this field to just ignore that. So just very careful and cautious.
Have you written a book or anything about with any of these experiences, or is there a record of them besides the TV show?
Never written a book. It's definitely there. We've had offers and stuff, and there's always offers, man. I mean, it's and siphoning through all that stuff. You know, like people are like, "Oh, you didn't do anything outside of the haunted case files." I mean, I'm working on something right now that would be pretty awesome if it goes through. You know, if it doesn't go through, it doesn't go. I'm not one of those guys in the paranormal. They're gonna be like, "Hey, I just got this new TV show," because you know everyone's got a reel, everyone's got a production company's always fishing, but we're onto something really cool, and if it does actually come to fruition, it will be a game changer to the field, and we're really excited about it.
We'll look forward to it. I'm still just absolutely blown away by this. I guess not concept, but realization.
Oh yeah, that's just a blip.
It's always been my assertion that your mental state matters so much that if you're going to allow yourself to go into these situations, you've got to be strong mentally. But it sounds to me like your wife is clearly a strong person, but was able to be taken down to that level.
Yeah,
by malevolent spirit or whatever is that's just terrifying to me. Like, I wouldn't believe that was even possible. But
Yeah, that's what the devil would like us to believe, right?
that's crazy, man. That's insane.
He's very much so alive. He's very much so there. It's just, you know.
I would love to hear more about your story. So I hope you do get a book or something going on, because that'd
be the perfect thing to have a ghost writer on, right?
Yeah.
Ah,
front bump.
yeah.
No, not really though. I mean, it's you know, I don't know. I don't know why I was chosen and all this. You know, I mean, the stuff I went through as a child and seeing the things that I saw, it just doesn't seem fair. And like, why would that have happened to me? And,
well, it's interesting you stayed open to it, because I know some people in my own life who had I don't know, insight or visions and things when they were younger, but that they kind of just shut it off, intentionally shut it off, because it was horrific. Because there's a lot of information you can't do anything with. It's when you have that premonitory sort of vision or dream and you see it come to fruition. Now, what do you do with the rest of your dreams? Do you assume they're all going to come true? Do you assume they're all fortune telling things? You know, there's nothing you can do with that stuff. So a lot of people shut that down. It's very interesting and speaks, I think, highly to maybe who you are as a person, that you were able to continue living with that sort of,
it hasn't been easy. In fact, there was a time when Marie and I were together that Marie literally stopped investigating for probably 6 months. She didn't want to go out. She didn't want to do anything, because we okay, now just to like break this down, like literally out of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases we've taken, we've clearly identified 2 homes that we've investigated as demonic. So when everyone says everything is demonic, it's not all demonic. Literally 2 homes, but there was one that we took that so much so affected us personally that in such a negative way that like Marie was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm not doing this. And that was actually the starting point to where we knew that she wasn't doing so well and that she was very sick. And things were happening with her that we didn't understand. And the doctors couldn't explain it. But this work comes at a cost. It's one thing if you're out there trophy hunting and you're a ghost hunter, like the trophy hunter. It's a whole nother ballpark if you're really doing it for a reason. Like I like to say that my paranormal team, or my wife and I, are our own ministry. And I don't preach Jesus and I don't preach God, but what I do preach is that there is life after death. And if I can plant that seed everywhere I go, then I'm doing what I was supposed to do. And that's why I was able to come back here after my near-death experience, because that was my promise to God, that I will plant that seed and I will let everyone know that this place exists, that there is a hell, that there is a heaven, that there is an afterlife. Mm-hmm. So we have made a very conscious effort to plant that seed. And we've gone in places where, you know, like clergy wouldn't dare go. I mean, they were sitting in the Church of Satan in Salem, Massachusetts, having a very real conversation with very devout Satanists and dealing with members of the occult and things like that, and having these conversations where otherwise a clergy member and others would not dare to go, or they wouldn't be allowed to go. You know what I mean? So for us, that's very important. Actually, in fact, I remember the year when we got on Ghost Adventures. I think it was like the first, maybe the second time. I don't know. We've been on there several times, but we always used to speak at the Phoenix Comic Con before, when it was called Phoenix Comic Con. And one year, because we kept booking out the rooms. We had like hundreds of people out the door and stuff, and they finally gave us this big room because people complained, and we were kind of like, we wanted people to come in. And they gave us this room that must have had over 400 seats. And I was like, oh man, they messed up, you know? So I looked at my wife before it started, and I said, honey, if only 20 people show up in here, that's going to be pretty embarrassing. I said, we're just going to sneak out of here and pretend we didn't even show up. And it's a true story, swear to God. And literally, like, you know, 15 minutes before we were supposed to go on, the whole room was full to capacity. And there was people waiting outside. And I was like, I can't do this. Like, and I'm not very good at public speaking. I mean, obviously you hear me here, you're like, oh my God, you're great public speaker. I hear that crap all the time, but like, honestly, I don't. It's a fight for me to do that. But I looked at my wife and I said, I can't do this. I can't do this. And she looked at me, very softly spoke to me, and she said, Jay, on your near-death experience, you promised God that if He gave you, she said that you told God that if He gave you the ability to speak before people, that you would. And these are your people, so go speak to your people. That's your pulpit right there. Those are your people. Go speak to them. And the moment she said that, Like I have like 400 people in front of me. Literally tears just start coming down my eyes.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh God, I can't do this. I can't do this. And everyone's looking at me, and I'm like, oh, this is crazy, dude. So my heart was literally exposed, right? And I started to explain that to everybody. And like, seriously, dude, like everybody's all eyes like on me. Everybody, like no one moved like an inch. And we went through the whole lecture within an hour. And then nobody would leave the room. There was just a line of people like wanting to talk to us. And I thought, oh my God, like this is crazy. Like, like Jay, what is your method of success? Like, why do you manage to do this and that and in the field? Is like, because I never looked for it before. You know what I mean? I thought I was supposed to be like, like a preacher and do all this kind of stuff. And I was going to be this super religious guy. I don't really consider myself religious. I was like more spiritual, I guess, than anything. But I made a promise, and I think that's why a lot of things have kind of come back and they've come my way, and I have a great responsibility to tell the people,
That's cool.
and to get people woke, I guess.
Chad said you do great. So after that experience, with that many people, how did you feel after? What were your feelings after the whole thing was over?
Grateful.
Yeah.
I felt that I was upholding my promise. It was definitely humbling. And I don't ever contribute any of my success to myself. It's always, to a higher power. I remember the one time after us dealing with our own demonic haunting in our own lives, when it was really active and really hardcore and had a tight hold on us. I remember one day it was all over with, kind of, sort of. Like, it wasn't that bad, but we were over that hump, And I remember sitting there in our living room, and I said, yeah, we really kicked that guy. We really kicked its ass, didn't we? And I was looking at my wife when I said it, and immediately I blacked out, and I had a flash of this demon coming down after me. And I remember screaming just violently and not even knowing where I was at. And I told my wife, we have to get out of the house now. And we went for a walk, and it was, it was that day. It was that day I never took credit for anything, because it wasn't me, So, right. But we've obviously made some type of enemy on the other side. We've made a lot of great friends, more than we have enemies on the other side. That's for sure.
Yeah. We did have a couple of questions I wanted to get to. Aragon Story says, did you say you believe that there is a heaven and a hell, or just heaven? What are your thoughts?
I believe there's both. Yes, I do believe that there's both. I believe that there's vibrations or levels on the other side. I can say that because I experienced many levels of hell and only one level of heaven. And that one level of heaven was enough for me to realize that I needed to get my head out of my ass.
Well, I'd like to go back to where you're talking about protection, when you go out on an investigation. For me, I'm an agnostic seeker. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't really have a belief system where I can really draw any protection from, Right. So I'm always, my belief is that whatever we use as that protection, we have to believe in to give it its power.
Absolutely.
So you say you get holy water that's been blessed by a priest or something.
Right.
Well, I don't believe the priest gave it its power.
Right.
I believe it's the person that believes that it has power, gives it its power.
The difference between believing and the difference between knowing, because even the demons in hell believe in God and cringe in his very name. The Bible even says we must know. So, I mean, that means it says a lot and speaks a lot about knowing. So if you know in something, that's a lot different than believing. Knowing is a total 100% assurance of something. So, like, for me, my protection, knowing, if I call it, for example, recently, and I hadn't had to do this in a long while, but my wife and I recently went out to Las Vegas last week, actually. And we were given access into the basement of the Zach's Museum. And, and if you've watched any of those episodes where a lot of that stuff has gone down in that basement, immediately we went down there. We were just bum rushed by what was down there. And I knew who I had to call, and that was my God, and we were good. You know what I mean? Not to say we didn't deal with some craziness throughout, but you know, like for me, I knew what I had to do, and I knew in that, so that worked for me. And people, it might be different for other people.
Interesting.
Yeah, thank you.
So we had a question earlier, is really on early, but it's always a topic that comes up, orbs. So somebody had asked earlier, you know, how do you tell the difference between a particle of dust and an orb? What we had somebody on a couple weeks ago that didn't believe in orbs. So
well, that was last week.
Was it last week?
Debbie was on too.
Oh, was Debbie on?
Yeah, Debbie was on.
Oh,
She said hi. It wasn't, she didn't believe in orbs, but she had a video or a book where she talks about orbs, and she's kind of embarrassed about it. But
so my interpretation on orbs or whatnot, you know, I've seen things with my naked eye. You know, I'm more interested in helping out the spirits and helping out the clients than I am trophy hunting and getting any kind of evidence. Because here's like the real fact of the matter is that I remember years ago, my wife and I investigated a home, and we had both video, audio, and photographic evidence that there was a haunting in the home. And I thought I was the coolest guy in the world to be able to present that to the client. But I remember that client looking straight dead in their eyes and saying, well, now what? And I looked at Marie saying, well, hell, now what? You know? So from that day on, I kind of like set out to make sure we were that now what, and that we spent more time counseling, talking, helping them to understand. Because the reality is we go into these locations, we spend maybe 4 to 8 hours in a location if we're lucky. Maybe we have a repeat visit. But these people live in these places, or they work in these places on a regular basis, so that they're always around it. Of course they're going to have experiences. I can't determine whether something is or is not haunted in that short amount of time. So I don't come to investigations to disprove hauntings. Now, if something comes up that's obvious, like, hey, this pipe right here is making this noise, or your refrigerator is that noise, or whatever, right. I'm not coming there to disprove your haunting. I'm coming there to help you with the problem that you're having. And sometimes it's not paranormal. Sometimes it's psychological. And sometimes that psychological turns into like what we call a Mr. Potato Head ghost. And the next thing you know, you really do have some shit going on in your house that we can help you with.
Build it yourself.
See, Debbie's still on.
Oh, yeah, she is.
So that makes me also curious. Do you come from the belief or the angle that that demons and or spirits can actually be trapped?
I believe in interdimensionalism is what at least I call it, where I believe that you have angels, demons, and human spirits and ghosts passing us all the time.
Right.
Sometimes we're either lucky enough or unlucky enough to see them. Now, like, as far as like, you know, it's all there. You know what I'm saying? It's all there. What was your question again? I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time hearing you guys.
Basically, I'm curious. I've always been curious if those spirits, when there's that crossover interdimensionally or just plane of existence, someone like you who sees these things and has that tangible sort of experience, are you crossing into their space, or are they crossing into ours? And is one of you? Or
yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's a little bit of both, to be honest with you. And I think sometimes we're walking into their space where they're like, "Who the hell are these people?" You know.
I feel like
time and space with these guys are completely different than us. I mean, we departmentalize our lives upon hours, times, and minutes. Right. I mean, like I work, you know, Marie and I spend and volunteer most of our time at Vulture City, which is a ghost town. And, you know, there's hundreds and hundreds of spirits there, you know what I mean? And it's like, sometimes I feel like I'm kind of stepping, you know, in their space. Sometimes they're stepping in our space.
Right.
But as far as like, it's just we've become too accustomed to this whole world of just, you know, everything. Yeah, we're like, you know. But for them, like these guys that died like 150 years ago at Vulture City, to them that just happened like in our eyes, a blink of an eye, like it's just a second. It's a flip, you know what I mean? So it's very fresh for them, but it's very old for us.
Yeah, and that's what makes it just really crazy and hard to wrap our little human brains around.
Oh, absolutely.
Like
I mean,
the idea that energy's just flowing around in this spot, and you walk through it accidentally. It's like, oh crap, there was a cowboy there.
Yeah.
And did he see you like, who the hell was that?
As far as like orbs and stuff are concerned, like most generally, people, when you go to events and you do these speaking things, people always want to show you their picture of an orb. You know what? If someone's going to send me, if they think it's their Aunt Susie or Uncle Bobby, I'm not the guy to tell them otherwise. I'm not going to be
wearing
that.
a name tag.
If that's what they believe and that's what they feel, then I'm going to go with that. I'm never going to discredit anybody's evidence. I'm not going to break anything apart. But I mean, like, have I seen orbs? Have I seen things that appear to be orb-ish, if you will? Absolutely. But with my naked eye, you know, of course, we catch things on film and stuff. Is it possible that we're dealing with spirit interaction with some of that? Absolutely. But is most of it probably dismissible by way of fragments on the lens flare, matrixing, pareidolia? Absolutely.
Mike had an interesting question. I like the way Mike works
Yeah.
it, but he says, Jay, have you ever smelled the spirit? Seriously, but and I think I know where he's coming from with that.
Well, I think I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if I say I smell a spirit, but a good reference point would be Vulture City in the brothel. There is times I'll go in there and I'll smell a very heavy scent of rose fragrance, whether that be perfume or roses. It's very, very strong, very, very potent. It will happen very quickly. So I call that more of a phantom smell than I would like smelling a ghost, but that's the only way I can kind of relate that to that question.
Spirit in here.
Actually, Chad's got a great question.
And so does Christine too, when that comes up.
So Chad says, what's Jay's theory on why we can't get any evidence from caveman times?
Why we can't get any evidence from caveman times?
Yeah.
Well, we got to look back at like how long ago that really was. You know, I mean, I think that like, you know, when we die, I think some of us decide to become spirit and ascend into the other side fully, as the others become ghosts because they feel fear of judgment, passing over, maybe due to the things that they've done in their lives, or maybe they didn't believe in any kind of God or have any real faith of any life after death. So for them to make that step is worrisome for them, that there'll be nothing, right? Or there might be some type of judgment coming down upon them.
Okay.
So I mean, that much time going by, you know. But with that being said, there's a lot of interesting things that we're dealing with in the town that we do a lot of investigating out of, and that's the area around Vulture City was actually considered at one point in time the land of the giants.
Okay.
And with that being said, and these are like ancestral humanoids, right? That predate even Navajo and Apaches and whatnot. So
Anunnaki.
There is sightings. There has been sightings. There was a sighting in 1890 of a very tall individual that was in between 8 and 9 foot tall that was seen at Vulture. That was in the newspapers. Another time in 1910, the same similar situation happened. And even all the way up to 2020, have we had sightings of these large beings. So those, I'm not saying that those are cavemen, but definitely indigenous individuals here in the area that we spend a lot of our time investigating. So I guess in some ways, maybe we have seen somewhat of a caveman type presence.
Yeah, I think going back to the caveman, it's something that they can't relate to us. So,
right.
So our paths
that's a huge part of it too. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think we're
culturally,
totally
everything is different, you know, and we might look at a caveman as like an animal or an elemental or
right.
whatnot.
Good point. Oh, Christine's up there, so I can't read it from here. You think the veil between our world and the spirit world is thinning, and that's why more people are experiencing more paranormal activity?
I definitely think that more people are becoming woke is what I think. I think people are really starting to wake up. I think that, especially with the whole COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of people have a lot of time on their hands to really do some thinking, some soul searching, and really reevaluating their lives and what's going on. And I think that the forever presence of paranormal television and the conversations, the podcasts, the magazines, the articles, the media. I mean, a lot of people are talking about this stuff. So I think with that being said, I think that does help to thin the veil a bit from here to the other side.
Even just the time to think about these things that we didn't have before because we're all narcissistic beings.
Yeah,
Look at their
exactly.
life. I got bills to pay and this and that. So it's really easy to dismiss it. But yeah, there's a lot more time to give thought to like, what the hell was that? You know?
Exactly. And you're spending a lot more time in your homes. So there's definitely a lot more, I would say, calls coming in from residential homes and whatnot. People that have been there, in their homes more often, so they're seeing more of their experience. And plus, when a lot of people are out of work and whatnot. I mean, a lot of that, the energy that we produce ourselves, like we go to our jobs, we kind of just disperse that energy there. But now when you're at home, you're dealing with everything. You're between your significant other, your children, all the other stuff. And all that energy is just being built up in these homes more and more and more. And it just gets heavier and heavier and heavier.
Yeah.
And then people start creating their own poltergeists, essentially.
That's kind of scary. And I've always thought this is why prayer, in my opinion, prayer works. Because you get enough people concentrated on something, it's energy focused. Yeah. So yeah, when you have that negative collection of energy, be it from fear or whatever the case may be, you can poltergeist, like you said, make their own poltergeist. Absolutely, you get enough people.
Well, what generally happens, and what we really see, we talk a lot about self-generated hauntings, and that's something that really specific. We deal a lot with mental illness and how that relates to the paranormal because our son is autistic. So and he's very gifted in seeing and feeling and sensing spirit. But we've helped a lot of people with that. My background is in mental health and law enforcement and all that kind of stuff too, and social work. So that definitely does help out. But what I always say is, like, generally what will have happen a lot in these poltergeist cases is that someone will call us or send an email and they're experiencing like footsteps down the hallway, right? Well, then, time goes by and then, they start having a fear response to those footsteps, right? Mm-hmm. So then this thing is just fueling up, right? So the next thing you know, now doors are slamming. And then, a couple weeks later, now things are flying off the shelf. So what we've inverted, and then we start building this image of what this really is, that it's some crazy looking, demonic entity. So we essentially create our own ghost in our mind, and then that manifests outwardly. And with that being said, like your basic, probably nothing, paranormal, then turns into a very real issue. And that all goes back to, we were talking about belief and faith and knowing, because these people then go from just assuming to believing, then now they know they have something, so then they really do. Oh, wow. So who am I to come in and say they don't?
Right. That's crazy. Right. That's cool.
And that would also tie into some of the residential stuff, because if you take, someone that's not experienced in investigating that kind of stuff, or going into somebody's home where they're experiencing something that possibly they've created, right, and then you go in because you want to experience it, and then all of a sudden you add to that because
absolutely
you're buying into it.
And that's exactly why I don't spend a lot of time going into, I still do. It's just very rare that I do, because, it's introducing new people to the home, because you have investigators running around in the middle of the dark, and then they're feeding that by, all their expectations, their emotions, and then being scared of their own shadows at the same time. And something happens, a noise happens, and then your heart rate starts to increase, and then your energy level starts to go up. Thus, that it's just fueling and fueling and
fueling. On the log flume that psychosis
builds up. So that's what I've had to learn personally growing up as a child, experiencing these things. And that's what we talk a lot with our clients, is about how to really lower the level of activity. And one thing that my wife will tell people is go to the mall or go to the park, get out of your home. If you guys are going to have an argument, you're going to have some type of confrontation in the home, just don't take that negative energy inside the house. Take it out. If you're starting to feel a little bit of fear, step out or stand up, right, one or the other. Right. So that explains that at all.
I think you brought up a great point with mental illness too. You talk about part of the reason why you're hearing more about it now is, back in the day, we always talk about it, that, if you said I'm seeing ghosts, I'm having things happen, they lock you up in a padded room,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I think with the advent of the TV shows and becoming more popular, I think more people are feeling more comfortable now about talking about it, and you're not criticized as much,
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a big thing.
And you got to understand too, the case I told you about earlier with my mother-in-law's house, her grandmother had dementia. So and my son, he had autism. So what I believe specifically is that children, are fresh from their creator. We're untainted. We haven't experienced life disappointment. So we all have the gift of seeing through that veil, right? It's very thin. But as we get older, we lose that. But people with mental health issues, or maybe autism or whatever, they don't lose that. They still kind of stay there, right? They're still sucked into it, right? So with that being said, they tend to be more susceptible or more vessels to it. This example, Alzheimer's, dementia, as they get older in life, we start hearing our grandmothers and our grandfathers talking to their deceased loved ones. And we say, oh, well, they're just going crazy. Well, I can tell you that I've been on many of those investigations, and most of them are not crazy. Okay, like most of them are actually having real conversations with the other side. But we just don't want to admit it because we're scared, we're fearful of that. But their veil is thinning because they're crossing back over, so that all that childlike faith and everything, they're more susceptible, they're more open to it. So that's we deal with a lot of that. We deal with a lot of those questions and deal with a lot of those topics. In fact, working in mental health, like I've had so many like conference meetings with doctors that, you know, this is completely off the books, but hey, this kid is going through this, and I know that you do paranormal stuff, and I've heard, you know, your reputation, and I mean, is it possible that they're really seeing this? Because we believe that they're seeing this. We don't believe that they're crazy. We don't believe that there's really anything other than the fact. So I've had those conversations, and it's pretty cool to, you know, hear a doctor that's super really hardcore educated, like bring you into a conversation about that, you know, and then ask you, well, how can we help that kiddo? And I love doing that. I love being able to lend advice and things that we can do to help that for those kiddos.
That's awesome. Yeah, bringing Vinny's comment there, I totally agree with what he says there. Says it's a double-edged sword, as there are way too many medications prescribed, and there is a conflict with an individual's body chemistry once the medications are there. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I've lived it.
This is what predicated that answer. It says, do you think mental illness can be certain type of possessions with certain people? I'm not disrespecting the people with mental illness at all. But yeah,
I think they're very susceptible to it. I think that they're very open to it, and I think that it's one of those things. I mean, we deal with it so much that, like, I know that's the fact about it. So, if you guys ever, we did a show called Scariest Night of Our Lives, and the episode that I did specifically was called Steven's Imaginary Friend. And if you could probably find it anywhere online, but it's called Steven's Imaginary Friend. The show is Scariest Night of Our Lives. And that's a very real interpretation of someone who does have autism, and how I went through this whole thing with my own son. And, you know, actually, in fact, my son, just to give you that little bit of that story, is my son, he was speaking to a kid named Nicholas and to someone named Snake. And we didn't know what was going on, but one evening I happened to see this large, dark, shadowy presence, which I do believe was Snake. And on another occasion, I saw this little child sitting in the bathtub inside this home. And I remember when we finally left and we purchased a house, and she was leaving that apartment, the people that own the apartment complex, so I don't know how you stayed in there as long as you did. And my wife replied, why? And they said, well, because there was a murder-suicide that happened inside that house. The guy's moniker on the streets was Snake, and the son that he murdered in the bathtub, his name was Nicholas.
Oh, wow.
So, to give you an idea of the crap that I've been through and my family.
Wow.
That's crazy. Any other questions up there? I know you left us speechless.
Yeah, it's like, what?
It's like, what?
Kicked my nuts through the floor. All right, let's go. Holy shit.
So I do have a question though. So, you know, you hit very hard on, you know, not everybody who's doing this should be going into residential homes. You know, if you're not experiencing, you don't know what you're doing. So for people who do have a genuine interest on learning about the paranormal and they really want to experience what's out there, you know, they can do like what we do. We go to a lot of the historical places and do our own, you know, investigations and see what we find. So do you think that's always the best place for people to start? I mean,
Absolutely. And I mean, you know, there's multiple websites out there where you can find a whole directory of all the paranormal teams that are in your area. Send out a mass email. Say that, you know, you're new to the field, you're interested in it. You'll at least find at least one or two teams that are willing to let you go on and tag along on an investigation, you know. So go out with people that are more experienced. Go on your local ghost tours and your local public ghost hunting events and things like that. Go to the paranormal conferences, meet people, network, and learn the trade, you know, before going and getting yourself into something that you don't really understand truly.
Right.
One thing I've seen a lot in paranormal conferences over the years is seeing people come in that weren't even just more or less just kind of interested in it. And then you see them the next year, and then they're starting to investigate historical locations, and you see them the next year, and they come to me, well, how do I form a team? And then I connect them with other people that are looking for the same thing, you know. So these paranormal conferences and things like that are great places to go. to really network and to see who is around you locally or in your area, reaching out to other paranormal teams that have been doing this for a while. You'll at least find one or two that will be willing to let you tag along. That's for sure.
Right.
Yeah, we were kind of lucky that way.
Yeah, it was.
So we
With Manny and Wendy and Rebecca and everybody.
Yeah.
It started with snakes.
It did. It started with snakes.
So Vinny brings up a good point. People are going into homes doing Facebook Live on the investigation. What happened to confidentiality? And that's kind of what you brought up earlier. Yeah.
I mean that's again, like, people. You definitely need to be crossing your T's and dotting your I's. You should have contracts in place.
People are doing them live.
Have some type of insurance, either going out there doing this kind of stuff, and especially in people's homes. You know what I mean? So we have waivers after waiver after waiver, screeners, everything before we even get to your house. And then, in fact, when we do cases, we don't even my case coordinator is a client of mine that I had years and years ago, like 10, 11 years ago. We investigated her family home, and eventually, next thing you know, she's our case coordinator. So when you call us looking for help from us, you're speaking to a previous client. But we're just very careful at that. But yeah, you shouldn't go on Facebook Live in someone's house. That's insane.
That's pretty risky.
Yeah. Good way to get sued.
Yeah, exactly.
Sued, or just an entire plethora of awful possibilities.
Yes.
I do want to bring up a couple of your websites that you have. You want me to bring up the team website? Copscrew.com.
I knew it.
That's your team website, correct?
Yeah, that's our paranormal team. That's Crossing Over Paranormal Society. Obviously, abbreviated COPS.
Right.
Different COPS.
So that's our COPS crew, yeah.
What you gonna do? Okay.
Exactly.
Very cool.
And then you have your website, if people want.
Yes, that's yatesfamilyhaunting.com. So if you're interested in Marie and I specifically, and what we've done, with our bio, or maybe some of the television work we've done, most of it, quite a bit of it's on there at least. Some exclusive videos on there, as well as some of our investigations, and some of our travels are on there as well.
And then the other one is the Vulture City Paracon.
Yes, and that's our paranormal conference we mentioned earlier, happening October 8th through the 10th of 2022. I can't believe we're in 2021. Yes. Sorry, 2022. What am I thinking? Yeah, I'm already ahead of myself. Another year. Jeez.
2020 never existed anyway. We were all set to go to Paracon last year.
Yep. Right.
And dang it, we ended up doing our own little Parapalooza online little conference last year, which we're going to do again this year. But we're so looking forward to going to Paracon this year.
We had the first year that we had it, we had several hundred people come in from all over the United States. So, we had a lot of people. Wasn't expecting as many people as we did. We actually a huge turnout. We were totally bummed out that with the pandemic, we had to. It was just the responsible thing to do, was to go ahead and postpone it. Much of the talent that was coming there the previous year had already agreed to come back for 2021, so we got lucky there. One of the big guys that we have coming out this year is John Zaffis, the godfather of the paranormal. It's like a dad to me, like a father figure in the paranormal. Great guy, especially for a guy that used to, idolize Ed and Lorraine Warren, to call his nephew like a good friend of yours. It's still hard for me to wrap my mind around it. It's pretty cool. Great guy, very insightful, very knowledgeable, but he'll be out there speaking and whatnot. So definitely. And we got a whole line of people with Patty and Jerry coming out that frequently appears on Ghost Adventures. We have Sam Beltrusis, who's a well-known author, does a lot of books in the paranormal. We have the Reeps coming out. There's so many people. I don't want to just mention a few names, but everyone that's on there that's coming is on the VultureCityParacon.com website. But we have 20 some odd people that are coming out and doing different lectures and workshops and stuff. So a lot to do, and a cool place to do it at too. So
yeah.
Well, we'll have to talk about it again, because we have Patty's coming on as a guest in 3 weeks,
3
right?
weeks, yeah.
3 weeks.
Yep.
Of course.
These good people.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited about that.
I was reading Vinny's comment on that. On 2011, Vinny says he showed up for a residential investigation. There were 10 people outside. I asked the homeowner what was going on, and they all wanted to go ghost hunt with us. We left.
Oh my god! Yeah, I have a funny story actually about that. So I don't know how many years ago it was. Probably I don't know, probably 10 years ago or so. We had an investigation, and it was like we went there, did a consultation, we spoke with them, everything was lined up perfectly, screened everything. We get there, and they were setting up for a party, and we were like, "What's going on?" You know, and you were part of my wife's birthday present. You guys coming out here, and we know that your house is haunted. But instead of just running away from it, we're like, you know what? We're just gonna do some investigation here, and it was a very mild haunting, anyways. But yeah, it was pretty weird.
It was a
pretty
party.
weird. So, yeah, everyone had driven in from all over the valley. So I'm like, well, we're here. You might as well just join the party and just
Right. That's crazy.
So, do you collect haunted items by any chance? Because Wendy has a question.
Absolutely. My wife hates it. Yeah, it's kind of been a problem. I kind of have a problem. But it all started with individuals not wanting things in their homes. And then I didn't want to just like throw it away, and I didn't want to just discard it. And then I just started collecting things. And I have some very strange oddities. I actually have one of those little devices that little young toddlers use that say like A, B, C, D. You push them and it makes the cow noise and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I actually got called out on a case, and it was centered around this particular object. And more specifically, this object had actually said a few sentences, essentially saying that the father in the home was actually going to get cancer and die. This device did. That's just supposed to make cow noises in A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? And I didn't believe it, but I thought if this is true, then this is going to be one of the most incredible cases I've ever been on. And we actually we went out, and they displayed this particular piece, and I couldn't even gauge the EMF on it. It was just spiking out of control. And we thought, well, maybe there's batteries in it. We'll remove the batteries, and we'll measure it again. Same situation. And then maybe it's the house, maybe it's where we're at. We'll take it outside, then we'll measure it there. Same situation. It was just crazy. You could just feel the EMF coming off this thing. And
light it on fire.
At that time, we had our Reverend on our team. His name was Reverend Paul Lovegrove, and unfortunately, we lost him a couple years ago, and that killed me. But he went outside, and he had blessed the object, and then we checked it again, and there was literally no energy or anything coming off of it, which kind of started to make me a little bit of a believer in some of that type of stuff. But that's one of the weird things I have. Another strange thing that I have is a good friend of mine was trying to get rid of a coffee table that had a burnt-in Ouija on top of it.
Oh,
and, I guess one of his friends cut his hand open to bleed on the board to conjure a demon through it.
Good Lord.
He was kind of like he was trying to auction off all of his stuff, and I don't know. I offered the guy like $25, and I came to pick it up, and he's like, "Oh, thanks, man." And I just thought it was a pretty interesting piece. Well, a couple of years before that, I have a few friends that actually handcrafted a planchette for us, and they like bound it and did some kind of stuff with it, the magic with it or whatever, and it fit perfectly on top of this coffee table. And I'm like, wow, this is really cool. So I'm not even thinking at all, and I should have. I put the planchette on top of the coffee table. Well, it was up in our landing, is where my occult museum used to be at. And we would be downstairs in their living room, and we would hear the coffee table moving all over the floor. Oh, wow.
Jeez.
So, and we'd go
planchette
up there,
was staying in place.
Every other day we'd go up to the coffee table, would be in the corner of the room, or it'd be in the hallway. And we're like, who's doing this? And I started to realize, you know what? I put this planchette on top of it, and I activated the damn coffee table. So then I took it off, and then it stopped. I also have a crucifix that was handcrafted in Mexico. It dates back to, I think, the 1920s, and there had been about 6 paranormal teams that had come out to this house, and the reports were that the crucifix actually bled blood and real tears, and it was violently thrown across the house multiple times. In fact, it's glued together in all these different pieces, and that was the main piece in the house that was causing the activity, which we identified, and the family's like, get it out of my house now. And my wife does not like that particular piece. I do not display that piece, and I do not display it in our office area. I have it properly secured and placed in an area away, a little outside the home. But I do take it out from time to time at lectures and whatnot, and explain the story in more depth. But yeah, I've obtained a lot of weird stuff, voodoo dolls, and all kinds of stuff.
Nice.
And over there,
So Wendy's question about that was which piece is the most active that you've collected?
I'm gonna go with the tape.
One of the worst pieces that we have obtained from client would be a totem that was cursed, and if it's ever hung up, it definitely, you know about it in your life very quickly. It's displayed in my home, but it is not hung up. I'm not really going to get into what has happened when I have hung it up in my house, but it's not really good. So, that's one that, and there's something that I've obtained just in the wild was it's a rock that's filled with silver. It actually braced my falling off of a cliff in Crown King. I was on a trip with some buddies of mine and my autistic son, and we were just kind of stumbling around in the forest and didn't realize we were coming up to this huge drop off. And there I went, stumbling down, and this rock kind of like braced my fall just enough to just get back up on the actual cliff itself. And then looking over, I saw the sun hitting this rock, and I'm like, oh, this rock kind of like saved my life. Is the kind of way I looked at it. So I kind of leaned over, reached, picked it up, and then after bringing that home, it pretty much screwed up my entire life. So I actually, not that long ago, I sleep with it. I used to sleep with it beside my bed, just out of pure spite and to not be scared of it. Very long story short, my autistic son came to me one afternoon, and he said, "Dad, I just want you to know something, that a couple of weeks ago, I went into your room in the middle of the night, and there was a 2-headed demon standing by the side of your bed by you, and a 2-headed demon standing on the side of the bed by Mommy. And it said that you took something from him. You took a rock from him, and it was his. And he has 26. He has 26, Dad." And I started doing this research about a particular demon. I'm not going to get into names or anything because I don't need that in my life right now. But everything he said, he would have literally had to do some very serious research. And at that time, he really had a difficulty reading. So there's no way that he would have known what he did know. But that helped to stimulate a very dark and demonic haunting in my house. Wow. So be careful the rocks you pick up when you're out and about and travel.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And I was told by like a lot of people that I should do this with it and do that with it, and it pissed me off so much that this rock could do so much damage that essentially I fought back with it quite a bit, to the point to where I literally started sleeping with it right next to my bed, out of pure spite and anger, kind of. And it wasn't that many years ago that we actually we had come into the bedroom, and we were going through some serious activity in the house, and that rock was laying on our bed, and it was broken in half.
Oh, wow.
So then after that, it got put up in a safer place.
So you never went ahead and put googly eyes on it or anything, right?
Yeah.
Hey, demon, I made a pet out of your rock. How do you like that? Bitch.
Somebody asked if you ever investigated the Casey Moore's Oyster House in Tempe.
We kind of did a little mild investigation there years ago. We used to work with a lot of promotion companies out here that screen like horror and paranormal related films. And then they'd have us come out and do lectures before like the screening of Conjuring movies and stuff like that, and Luigi movies. And we would do like this little talk in like Tempe before the movie. And one of those led us to the Casey Moore house, doing a little like thing there. Yeah, but definitely that place is pretty cool. We haven't done a thorough investigation there, but definitely haunted. That's for sure.
That's cool.
I've had their oysters.
Have you?
They leave you haunted.
It's a haunting, all right. I'll go in the bathroom alone.
I was just going to make a comment though, because he's talking about his rock, and we have a co-host. He's not on with us tonight, but he does our hunt shows with
The
us.
brick.
Well, he was in
Romania,
and he visited Vlad's castle,
Uh-huh.
and he stole a brick from Vlad's castle and brought it home. And ever since he brought it home, he's had all kinds of bad luck.
multiple things.
He described it as
Terrible
ruining
things.
his life.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he lost a child. He got into horrific accidents where he almost died in both. The second one, his brain came out of his head, and they got him put back together. But
you got to be careful. I mean, I've been a part of a lot of, and we've kind of worked out of a lot of locations. And I do hear a lot of those stories of people like taking things and then returning them later on because of different associated possible attachments, hauntings that have occurred. Whether it's psychological to them or whatever it is, I don't know. But I've definitely seen that quite a few times actually in different haunted locations.
Now, do you think, I mean, obviously with you haven't taken the rock back, but do you think once you activate that, once you take that item, do you think bringing it back helps, or is there damage already done once you take it?
Well, for me, I wasn't about to like follow some rules of something and appease the demon. You know what I mean? So that was my mentality with it. Was just like, dude, this is a rock. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, it's a freaking rock. But the things that happen because of that, and the things that I experienced, I remember in that house that we lived with that whole rock incident. There was a lot of things. I mean, I remember waking up screaming and just terror. It was like literally, it sounded like a metal rakes being raked across the drywall behind the headboard of our bed in the middle of the night. Someone screaming a high-pitched scream in our house in the middle of the night. A very dark shadow person would stand at the foot of my bed the entire night. I wouldn't sleep very much. I worked the sheriff's office night shift at the time, but the nights I was off, I would sit there and suffer and not sleep. All kinds of stuff, man. It goes on and on and on. But yeah, all over a friggin' rock.
No, that's crazy.
Should decorate it.
hey,
Rated a pet rock.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just tell the demon what's up.
yeah, it's got to be the original weapon, though, right?
The rock.
The rock, probably the first thing that somebody killed somebody else with.
I don't know, man, but it definitely had something going on with it. Like literally, the only reason why I took it is because I was like, "Oh, this is a cool souvenir, man," and it was filled with silver and stuff. So I was like, "Oh, dude, this is pretty cool." Like, you know, but yeah, had I known that was all going to happen, probably wouldn't have taken it.
Well, he should have put his name on it if he wanted to keep it.
So then you believe in, a lot of people believe in crystals and stuff having power. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm sure that they do. I mean, I've seen a lot of people do a lot of work with crystals and stuff. I'm sure, especially if you have, faith in that type of stuff, that I think it probably work a lot better on a psychological level, at least, right?
Right.
Everyone had told Marie, like, Marie, here's the thing about us, because like people used to, when we go to conventions, they would throw crystals in her purse. We'd come back home with all kinds of crystals and stones and potions and spells and all this stuff, because we always said we never practiced any type of paranormal protection.
Right.
So we always come back like, where the hell did all this stuff come from? And so we have a whole like box filled with all this stuff. So if you've ever given us that kind of stuff before, I do have a box designated for that. I don't use it. I'm sorry. But we did at one point in time. We purchased a quartz crystal for Marie in a spot. We had given permission to investigate Superior, Arizona, for a full year, pretty much, and we were able to have access to all the buildings and whatnot. And we obtained a crystal from there, and she held onto it for a while. And then we were going through a pretty dark haunting at the time, personally. And I remember one day we passed by it and it was broken in half. So I'm like, oh, that's probably not good. But I mean, I think it does work for some people. I can't deny what I've seen other people do with that, and it seems to work for them. I don't use crystals.
Right.
I mean, because I just look at it as a crystal, so it wouldn't probably work for me anyways.
Right.
Well, it's funny because I was watching another podcast that you did. I don't know if it was a couple of weeks ago or a month or so ago, and they were just saying how people didn't think you and Marie were very approachable and all that, but they didn't understand it. So I don't know. So Vinny says years ago, a lot of people didn't seem to like you guys, which Pam and I could not understand.
No, people hated us, dude. Like all you hear out, like okay, so pretty much we came into the paranormal. We were kind of low key paranormal for several years, and then like we, finally got a website and all that kind of stuff, and things started to take off for us. But literally, like we were not. Honestly, we're probably not even really that like right now. Like with some paranormal teams, I don't know what I think. What people's common misconception is, okay, Jay and Marie do television, so that means that they're no longer credible.
You're like
I
the
think people
sellout,
might have
right?
felt like you stepped on some toes, maybe in the past, investigating certain locations that maybe they had in the past. I don't know. I really don't know. In fact, it's a funny story. Vinny might recall this. We were at a location, let's just say that, and it was a public event. And Vinny tells me, he says, "Hey, that's so and so from such and such team, and that's so and so from such and such team." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" Like, yeah. And I'm like, they never came up to me and said anything. This is the event that I'm doing. Not one time did they introduce themselves to me. So, yeah, it's very weird. The past several years now, though, things have kind of come around much differently. So we do a lot of mentoring with a lot of teams out here in Arizona and across the United States and abroad, really. But, yeah, things have changed quite a bit since then. But at one point in time, like we were pretty well, like, not really liked by that many people. And I think people had their preconceived notions and stuff. And people talk and they just say stuff. And I've heard that before. We've even done an event in Riverside, California. And like, they were like, well, we heard that you guys are really hard to work with. And we're like, huh? Like, who told you that? Like we're complete opposite, And then people think that we're not approachable. And then they finally talk to us and they're like, oh, wow, this is totally different,
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, today I was just talking to some random guy that's starting a paranormal team, and he was looking for some advice, and I reached out to him. I think he was kind of surprised that I did, and like I'm not opposed. I don't think that I'm any special. I'm just doing what I do. If I could help someone and educate somebody, if they were wanting that, then I'd be more than happy to do it. But yeah, I don't know. Definitely in Arizona, I've started to have a lot more friends in Arizona. But it was weird for a while, though. I'd go to California; those are all my people, and then I come to Arizona. I'm like, why does everyone not want to talk to me?
Right.
It's like, I don't know what's going on.
Vinny vouched for you and said you were pretty cool, so that's why we thought, well, maybe you'll come on our show.
Well, on Paranormal says, "Hey, Jay, what's up?"
Oh, what's up?
Christine had a question. Do you feel shadow figures are all evil?
Oh, I get so much heat from this when I answer this question.
So do it. Do it.
Right.
So pissed off at me. Actually, I just did a live like about a month ago on one of our groups on Facebook about this topic, and man, I really pissed off a lot of people. I believe that I believe shadow people are not necessarily. I don't believe they're demons, but I don't believe that they're human. I don't believe that they're necessarily human, or they ever human. I believe they're more of like puppet masters to the paranormal. So I think that they're almost like gatekeepers to the other side. They're watchmen to me more than anything.
Would that be elementals?
I don't know. Maybe. I'm still undetermined on which way to really label it, but to me, I feel like they're more of a puppet master to the paranormal and orchestrating events with the paranormal. And I get that information from me growing up, experiencing about a 9-foot tall shadow person that was forever present in my life all the way. It will still come to me even today, but it will happen when I'm really going through a lot of stress, a lot of hardship. And then when it appears, I know I'm in some, I'm about ready to experience some real next level crap, with the paranormal. So for me, I've never I've never had an experience to where I was assaulted by a shadow person, or hurt, or felt like I was necessarily endangered specifically by it. The feeling of evil does surround the shadow people that I've experienced, but I can't with certainty say that it's a demon necessarily. I think it's something else, maybe even worse.
But just evil at its core, whether it's demonic or not.
Yeah. Like the spirit of evil is the only way I could really point my finger at it. I mean, you never hear stories of a shadow person talking or having a conversation or catching an EVP from a shadow person. It's always some random spot sitting in a corner. You see this freaking shadow, this hooded figure just kind of just there.
Not leading you to the gold or anything.
But I mean, that's kind of my take on it. But I mean, I've been reamed for that one like quite a few times.
I think
people have too much access to the internet. They assume a whole bunch of stuff, and they've never experienced a shadow person before, but they think that they've read 17 blogs that they immediately know what one is. So I've seen shadow people. I've had experiences ever since I was a very young child with shadow people, and I can't really. Are they evil? I think there's a sense of evil from them, but not necessarily demonic, but definitely not human.
So the general consensus usually is that they're demonic or evil. Is that what I'm understanding? I'm very new.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry. It's cutting out.
I'm saying is the general consensus that they are thought to be demons?
They're demonic, that they're a demon, they're an entity of some kind. And I'm not opposed to that. I've dealt with demons before, and they definitely had no vibe compared to a shadow person. I've dealt physically. I've seen demonic entities right in front of my face, and I that's how I can tell you. I can discern the difference between that and the other. So,
wow.
I like what Mike says. Mike says evil isn't always demonic, and I think I tend to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's a very good point. Yes.
Yeah.
Did you say that, Jack?
I was just reverberating that comment.
Thank you for reinforcing that, Keith. I appreciate
it. Christine has another comment.
Wow.
I have a hard time reading that.
It says, when I seen a shadow person hovering over my bed, I felt it was warning me of something that was about to happen. That's just on kind of what you said there, Jay.
Yeah, that's my experience with them. Like, to me, that's not a demon, But I mean, people they want to believe that. That's fine. I could be wrong. You might talk to me in 5 more years from now, and I might have a different opinion based upon some new experiences I've had myself.
I like that idea of gatekeeper.
Yeah.
That things are gonna, hey, heads up, here comes some shit.
No, that's really, and that's what I've always experienced with them. Like, I know if they're present, I know like shit's about ready to go down. Like, honestly,
that's cool.
Just being very matter of fact about it.
Yeah.
And I think if we approach, spirits as being former living humans, they have personalities and they have feelings and all that. So what's to say when you go in and do an investigation or somebody engages one of these spirits that they rub them the wrong way. And so to the living person, then that spirit is an evil spirit, because they pissed them off somehow. But
what we always tell people is we tell people that, like, every time I do a tour or a lecture, whether I'm talking to young kids or adults or whatever, I say ghosts are people too. And in life, there's good people and there's bad people. And in death, it's the same way. That doesn't translate any differently. So if we truly believe that ghosts that are wandering around were once living, breathing human beings, then there's no difference. So you're going to come across good ones. You're going to come across bad ones. And if you come across a bad one, it doesn't mean it's a demon. They might be malignant, but they were probably malignant in life as well,
Yeah.
And is there also not the possibility that these things are just not of our plane of existence, and so there's no real ability to understand their purpose or anything about them other than you encounter them on those little chance moments, and
right.
If they're gatekeeper of dimensions or of planes of existence, they might not have a spectrum of feeling like we do. So it just all be very benign to them. To us, it's incredibly emotional and powerful, and they're just like, "What are you freaking out about, dude? I'm just trying to show you something." Anyway.
Bring up Doggy 357's comment there, because that's interesting. It says, probably going to word this wrong, but what are your thoughts on having a large enough group of people to believe in something so much that it creates spirit/demon, for example, Slender Man? I think that kind of goes back to Jack's point earlier. is that if enough people believe in something, it gives it power. But I think that question's not so much in a congregation setting, but just in general. If enough people believe in it, does it give it that form? You know?
I mean, definitely. I think that, like, it's like I said earlier about Mr. Potato Head ghosts. I think that we create our own nightmares, we create our own demons, we create our own hauntings oftentimes, inadvertently. So we absolutely, if you have enough people coming together, then all of a sudden, I can give you I'm not on the air, but I can give you examples of locations to where they weren't really haunted in the beginning, but because everyone's legend was that this thing was there, that essentially it was manifested via our own energies, our own emotions, our own, consciousness. But yeah, I definitely believe that 100%.
Interesting.
Chilling.
That's the kind of shit that scares you, right, Jack?
Yeah, well, this not so much scares me, but this is what's always made me feel. It's the same reason I'm not interested in hallucinogenics is unlocking things. How much control do you have once you open that box? And I feel it with hallucinogenics and with a lot of this stuff, because
there's a lot of cultures that use different hallucinogenics to
unlock these things. Absolutely. And when you're talking about this stuff that nobody has intrinsic, undeniable proof of any of these things, no one is a pure expert. So the reality is we're effing with things we don't really know. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's been my experience that I try not to do that. I've done it with enough stuff. So that's not a box I want to open. I don't want to invite demons or any kind of other spirits, because again, there's not a lot of answers, just a lot more questions, it seems like. And I spend enough time in rabbit holes as it is.
Yes.
But you are a fascinating human being, Jade. I'd love to hear more.
Thank you.
Well, you'll go to Paracon with us, Jack.
Yes.
Right on. Yeah.
So, what would you say, and this is kind of a fun question, what would you say has been your favorite place here in Arizona to investigate?
And I don't just say this because I'm wearing the hat, but Vulture City, literally, and to give you some backstory of what brought us there, like literally for like almost a decade, we had been trying to get into that location, and there was a team that was very present there in that location. It was very difficult to get into. And then it was switching ownership, and they would start mining, and then it would shut down. And it was just so difficult. But it was something that I've always wanted to get in there and actually investigate. And it was on the bucket list. It was one of those big spots for me specifically. And when the opportunity arose for us to get out there, I definitely wasn't disappointed. And the reason why I enjoyed that location so much is that it's essentially like a collective haunting, and you have both residual, intelligent, poltergeist, presence of possibly elementals, and indigenous, spirits. It's just so fascinating. It's forever growing. We've done hundreds and hundreds of investigations of this particular location, and with as many buildings as there is on site, if one building's not that active that evening, you can go to the next building. I'm always learning, and I'm always like, I've grown so much as an investigator, let's just put it that way, in the past 3 years, working out of that location, and learned so much about the spirit realm and how things really are working. And so for me, that is my favorite spot, just based upon how much time I've spent out there. And, a lot of people say, does it get old? It really doesn't. Not for me, it doesn't at all.
Right.
It's just always something new, Right when you think you have it figured out, you're like, oh no, like what's this? So for me, it has to be Vulture.
To expose my newbiness, where's Vulture City?
Wickenburg.
What's that?
It is okay. It is in Wickenburg. Okay. I didn't know where Vulture City.
Oh yeah, it's just outside of Wickenburg, like 20 minutes outside of Wickenburg.
Now, do you regularly schedule like tours? Do you offer out there, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we do. We try to do like 2 tours a month. Our next one's this Friday. Still have a few tickets left if anyone's interested. So it's about a 2.5 hour tour. We introduce you to the haunted objects that we've identified there at the location. We introduce you to some equipment usage. We give you a little bit of our background. We explain a lot of the experiences that have come out. Every building there has experiences, like paranormal wise and evidence. So we share that as we go along throughout the tour. We try to make it educational. We try to make it fun. But I cannot do enough of those to meet the demand for them, meaning that like they sell out pretty regularly. And I got a lot of regulars that come like often too, that snag a lot of the tickets immediately. So We do those a couple times a month. Actually, March 19th, we're doing an overnight lockdown. We only do 2 of those a year. We're able to lock down at Vulture City from dusk till dawn. We allow no more than 30 people in the entire town. While you're there, we feed you dinner, we feed you breakfast. And at the value of what it is, it's definitely a huge value for the price that you're able to get in there to be able to investigate for that many hours. I stay up the entire night, so I am there. My team is present during those particular events to bring out our equipment. We have a whole itinerary between 6 and about midnight. You don't have to follow that itinerary. All the hog wire, the chicken wire, all that stuff is removed for those events. So you're going to get complete and total behind the scenes access as if you were a production company coming out there to film. So it's literally, we've had huge reviews from really good paranormal teams that have come out there thinking, oh, this is not going to be a real investigation. And then they find out, oh my God, I can't believe this is here. So, and then of course, Paracon, but.
Bring your own demons.
Well, when's the next one going to be? Since that one's on the 19th, we're going to be in New Mexico. Dang it!
We're not sure. So it'll probably be like in the early fall, probably when we'll have the next one.
All right. Well, we need to keep in touch. That sounds like a blast.
Yeah, we only do a couple a year, and then we offer privates all the time. So if your team want to come out and do a private tour, we offer that. If you want to do a private lockdown, we offer that. If you're a YouTuber, you want to come out there and film, we offer that. So there's always options of coming out there. And starting next month, we're going to start doing non-walking tours, which are essentially you're seated around campfire, and we tell you, and you're in the center of town. We tell you stories about the town, as well as some of our background and the things that we've experienced and how that correlates and whatnot. And these things literally they sell out pretty well. So if you're interested, definitely go. I think it's vulturemindtours.com, and all those tickets are available on there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
We'll get Vinny to hit him up.
We'll have to do a private tour. That'd be fun. That'd be a blast. Be a blast just to be able to investigate with you, Jay. That'd be really cool. That'd be a lot of
love
fun.
that.
Yeah.
We're still learning. I guess everybody's still learning, but we're really still learning.
That's what life's about.
Yep.
For some reason, Mike's trying to get me to relapse. I don't understand.
Christine says, "Have you ever investigated Lake Shawnee in West Virginia? Didn't we do a story on that lake? One of our episodes.
Is that the old amusement park?
I think that was. Yeah.
Yeah, that is the old. No, I haven't. I would love to though. I'm definitely well aware of that location.
That place is creepy.
I wish I could. I should. Let's go.
I'm all for it. We need a road trip, a real road trip.
Somewhere other than New Mexico. Yeah. We love New Mexico, though.
We do.
There's some great places there.
Longhorn says, ask Jay about the phone call with Marie and Izzy playing music.
Oh, yeah. They were out doing an investigation there, and it helped me to verify without a shadow of a doubt that one of the dolls there were, in fact, haunted. We have a young girl spirit at Vulture. Her name is Izzy. And I didn't really know about Izzy for a very long time. And one evening we were home, my wife and I, we have a 2-story home. And downstairs, my wife and I, had kind of fallen asleep watching TV. And I kept hearing one of my cats meowing to get into my son's room. And he wasn't obviously letting him in. And it was really annoying. So I walked halfway up the stairs and I called for him to let the cat in. And he didn't listen, of course. But I started hearing a little girl's voice. And she was saying, "Hi, pretty kitty. Hi, kitty, kitty, kitty." The problem is I don't have any little girls in my house. So I kind of, I just got to slowly walk back downstairs, continue watching TV. Marie woke up, and we were exhausted from just doing, I think it was like a event or something we did the day before or whatever. And she's like, "You want to go upstairs and go lay down?" And I'm like, "No, I'm good. We can stay down here tonight, So the next morning, she's doing chores and stuff. We're doing chores around the house. And I said, "Hey," "honey, this happened last night?" And she goes, "Oh, that's Izzy. She follows us home from Vulture all the time." And I'm like, "Well, wouldn't you think it would be a good time for you to tell me that we have a 9-year-old little girl that follows us home?" So that particular incident that she's talking about is that I was using some ITC, and Izzy came through the box, and she said hello or whatnot, and, "You want to play with my dolly?" And there was a doll that had come to us from one of our workers. His wife is a bit of a spiritualist, and they were up at a neighboring town just north of Vulture, and she had said that this doll spoke with her, and it was supposed to go to Vulture City. And everyone kept saying the doll was haunted immediately when it came to Vulture City. And I'm like, why is this doll here anyways? It doesn't date the town. It doesn't make any sense. What are we doing? And so I kind of dismissed it for like the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
And once that happened, in that ITC, that response we got, I turned around and sure enough, there was this doll sitting there behind me in this chair. And I went to go pick it up. And you have to understand, before that point, I did not realize this doll had a music box inside of it. So the music box started playing as soon as I went to reach for the doll. So that definitely threw me off pretty quickly. But then when we picked up the doll finally, it was emitting ungodly levels of EMF. And it actually increased in temperature by 15 degrees within a matter of seconds.
Wow.
That's huge.
You know, and those stories with that doll go on forever and ever and ever. And now paranormal teams that visit us at Vulture that know about Izzy, because it's kind of become more common knowledge.
Right.
People bring her toys and they're dropping off like haunted stuff to us now for Izzy to play with.
Wow.
So she's not attached to the doll, but she's kind of taken ownership of that doll. Let's just say that.
Right. That's cool.
Mike's terrified now. We're talking about dolls.
If you come out to one of my tours, I introduce you to the doll as well. Her name is, we call her Dolly because Izzy named her Dolly.
Oh,
so
okay.
that's the name of the doll, and Izzy's, of course, the spirit girl that owns it. So
That's cool.
Wow.
So you have any questions?
I was just browsing up the list there.
I have one more fun question for you.
I like fun ones.
It's just piqued my curiosity. So, we all talk about paranormal being ghosts and spirits and demons and all that stuff. What's your take on UFOs and aliens?
I'm definitely a believer that there's something out there. I often joke around, not really joking. Like only way I'm really gonna know for sure is if I was ever abducted. You know what I mean? I know people that are abductees, they get really pissed when I say that. But like the amount of validation that would have for me, that would be what it would have to almost take for me to know with certainty. But I did see the Phoenix Lights, when I lived in the North Valley here in Phoenix. And by seeing that, and before that, I believed that there was always something there. I had hoped that there was something else, right? But after working out at Vulture so much, I've had some incidents to where I've seen things in the sky that I don't understand.
Right.
One particular incident that happened January of 2019, my son and I were there, and there was a filming project going on in town. Like, it's some YouTubers filming one of their episodes, and my son and I were inside of the kitchen that's situated in the center of town, and we had heard like a rumbling engine sound. And there's an active gold mine next door, so I'm like, that's kind of close. Like, what is that noise?
Right.
So we both stepped out of the patio, and the noise was coming from above, and we looked up, and we saw the underbelly of some type of craft that was very low to the building, like maybe 75 to 100 feet above the building.
Oh, wow. Wow, that is low.
I could literally see the outer workings of the parts that were associated with this, whatever it was. It wasn't a drone, unless drones could be operated by this several ton giant beast of a piece of machinery, that vehicle or whatever it was above us. But we were sitting there staring at it, and my son started to elbow me in my ribs, and he's like, Dad, that's an effing UFO. And I'm sitting there, like, didn't even know what to say. And I was recently talking to Ben Henson about this, because he's got that, that show, and he's like, well, did you get video of it? And I'm like, I feel like an idiot, but the last thing in my mind is to take a video of it. I wanted to engulf myself in the experience. I wouldn't even have crossed my mind. And it lasted for maybe 2 or 3 seconds above the building, and then it shot off into the distance over the gold mine area in the skies. And as it was skipping through the sky, is the only way I could describe it, it was going in and out of visibility, and then it just disappeared. And we're just sitting there, just like a bunch of idiots, like staring at the sky, like, what just happened? Like, I don't even understand. I couldn't even wrap my mind around what I had just seen,
Right.
And then there was another time out there where we were doing an actual tour, and we had about 30 plus people on the tour, and we were walking back to the parking lot. The tour was over with, and we were all looking up at the sky, and this giant red ball of light started to shoot down out of the sky. So, that's probably a shooting star, right?
Right.
Then it stopped stops in mid-flight and then shoots straight up vertically. And 30 plus people there, not one of us thought to pull out our phones. Not one of us thought to take a picture of it. We were all just sitting there like, yeah, that just happened. And, obviously, like, if you see something going down, if it was a shooting star, it wouldn't just get sucked right back up into the sky.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be here.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
We watched the rocket for how many minutes? Like 10 or 15 minutes. And nobody pulled out their damn phone.
Yeah. So the one that you saw first, could you determine whether it was like cylindrical or V-shaped, or
This is what sounds really stupid when I say this. Like, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but it really looked like the underbelly of the Millennium Falcon. It's the only way I could describe it. As far as shape goes, that's kind of the same, similar shape to that. And I still can't even believe. And it was in such detail that I saw it. So there was a light coming from it where I could actually see the outer workings of it, and there were symbols on the actual craft or whatever it was. I mean, I didn't know what it was. It was foreign to me. I don't know what the hell it said.
Right.
But I have no idea. Like, and honestly, like, I do all these storytelling shows. I go on TV a lot. I do lectures. I tell people, like, if I hadn't seen it myself, I wouldn't believe it either. So I don't blame people. I'm not here to turn skeptics into believers. So, I mean, like, I honestly wouldn't believe half this stuff either. But, once you do see it, give me a call. I'll give you some insight.
No, I did. That's great. That's awesome.
Oh man.
Wendy had a question. Where was Wendy's question? So, Jay, what do you think of the Superstition Mountains? I had to bring that up.
Oh yeah, we love
Superstitions. We the first time we were filmed with Ghost Adventures was at Goldfield Ghost Town. So we had some activity over there in that area. We spent several years poking around the superstitions. In fact, we did a fully funded expedition. We had a fully funded expedition into the Superstition Mountains by some mountain men. They had mules and they packed all of our gear in. And there was, I won't name the exact location we went to, but we went to a very particular mine shaft there in the area to collect evidence for some research that this guy was doing. And there's definitely something going on out there. Definitely a huge presence out there. You got a little bit of everything going on out there. But a very haunted spot. I've had a lot of experiences in the Superstition Mountains. Anywhere from hearing phantom drumming coming from nowhere. We've seen free floating lanterns when we were on the expedition, just walking, someone was walking with a lantern on the way up the mountain. And then it just disappeared. Lots of crazy stuff. But yeah, definitely a great spot for investigating. And you never know where you're at there and historically what happened there in that area.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's cool. Yeah, we're pretty intrigued by the superstitions. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It's a great place. And there's a lot of places over there in that area that are super, super haunted that we've investigated nearby it, including a funeral home, a restaurant, several houses. God, that place has got a lot of activity.
Yeah. That's cool. Very cool. Well, that's awesome, man. That's what a great talk.
Yeah. We're so honored that you spent the night with us.
Yeah, really.
Happy to be on. Maybe next time Marie will be available. So
I hope so.
We'll have to do this again sometime.
Hope she's feeling well.
Thank you.
I know it's a drive, but maybe we can do an in-studio thing one of these days. That'd be kind of cool. That'd be fun.
That's very cool.
We're definitely
Wickenburg's just right down the way.
Oh yeah, we're the opposite end of the planet.
I'll be there. I'll be there actually next week. So
Nice.
In Wickenburg?
yeah, we've installed down there. My work takes me all over the place. So
Huh.
one of the places.
Well,
Anyhow,
be sure to tell Marie we said hi.
Yeah.
We'll
And
do.
also want to thank you for your law enforcement years. Thank you for
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure. So we'll definitely have to get together and do some investigating, and we'll definitely do a few more episodes with you. Have you back on, share some more stories.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely. We'll do. That sounds good.
We'll
All
definitely
right.
have to get out to Vulture City before Paracon.
we have
also.
to for sure. Absolutely.
Somehow, some way.
Sounds good.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and I think everybody really enjoyed it. And
Yeah. I know I did.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Good to meet you, bud.
Have a good one, guys.
All right.
Yeah,
We'll see you
too.
soon, Jay. Thank
Take
you.
care now.
That was awesome.
Very cool.
That was some intense stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Seriously. Yeah.
Way intense. Freaked my wife out.
Your wife's all freaked out now.
Oh, she's texting me. She's texting me like crazy. I'll share it with you guys.
That's crazy.
Not right now.
I
How
like
does that feel?
I like Mike the Naked Bigfoot's interaction with dolls.
Right.
Yeah.
I've been paying too much attention to recently to what he's been saying. What awful things are going on over here.
Well, dolls are like paranormal laxatives to him.
That's not how you use them. That's not how you use them. Are you eating them or are you? Sorry.
Thank you, Christine. It was a really good show tonight. I mean,
Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
yeah, that was awesome. Very cool.
That was a different level of intensity, I got to say.
Yeah.
I don't know if my chin was actually as open as it felt.
A few times it
What
was.
the
Yeah.
fuck are we talking about? Like, cause he's just saying some bold, straight up. Like, holy shit. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Your wife's what? No pulse. No. Okay. Yeah. I'm out. Fuck that. I'm done. It was 3 times in that one story where I'm like, and you went back. You still do this shit. I don't. Nope.
Right.
Whole bag of no. Big old freaking sack of no. That was crazy. Wow.
That's crazy.
Well, it's a good possibility next week we'll have time to talk about all of it.
Yeah.
And do a show. Exactly.
Hey, that was good.
Nice.
Right on there.
Yeah.
You missed that.
I know.
What the hell time?
It's about that time.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank
Shut up, Chris.
everybody that joined us tonight
Yeah, absolutely.
on the feed and your questions and feedback and all that. That was awesome.
Debbie, it was great to see you. Longhorn, thanks for jumping on.
Yeah.
Really
There's some new
appreciate
people I've
that.
never seen on there before. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Including myself.
Hey, yeah. How did you get on there, Jack?
I don't. It's my secret.
You're right there.
I've got a phone. I ran out of data though, so I'm off the chat. It's like shit.
Oh man, that sucks.
Mike, what the hell?
What?
Mike's just like yeah, we'll talk.
Well, speaking of Mike, though, he just put some new videos up on his YouTube channel, and you got to go check him out. I love his storytelling.
Okay.
He did an investigation with another paranormal group, which have a hard time saying paranormal. I don't know why.
Paranormal.
At the Goblin House.
Oh wow, the Goblin House.
Yeah, you got to watch those videos.
Goblin, not gobbling.
Goblin. Yeah, I learned all kinds of new words from him, and well, I didn't learn them very well because I can't
Repeat them.
I can't repeat them.
Can't pronounce them.
But it was a lot of fun.
My goodness.
Mike the Naked Bigfoot
Yes.
on YouTube.
We have nothing to cheers to tonight.
What do you mean? How about life? How about life in general?
What are you talking about? I got.
How about not being
No.
attached to any demonic entities? I'm cool with cheers to that shit. Because holy crap.
Well, it's not a cheer show anyway.
That's true.
This
That is.
Fine.
isn't a hush show. This is paranormal talk.
That's right. And that was very paranormal.
That was
That was very paranormal.
That was very paranormal.
Enjoyed it very much.
That was almost a half a dozen than normal.
Well,
All right.
Case. What am I doing?
I don't know. I think we're done.
We are done.
I know there's a thing here.
It's the paranormal talk one
Yeah.
at the very bottom
Oh, there. The intro.
with Mike's face on it.
Yeah. That's the one.
That is the one.
Up, right there.
Yeah,
Bam.
right there.
Later, y'all.
All right, everybody. Until
Later.
next time.
Yeah.